On today's, we're just going to do a lot of questions about knots. As an instructor, we do teach 5 or 6 knots. A lot of knots that we use in line work. But these knots are typical knots. They don't actually have to be used in the line worker field. A lot of these knots you can use just around the house if you're working on things, or if you're working in your shop, or if you're doing different things, need to tie some things together. Perhaps you got a couple boards from Home Depot, you need to tie them up. So we'll show you different ways how these knots can be used other than just line work. The first one we're going to tie is the bowline. Now, you know what? We're going to start with a square knot. The square knot is the knot, one of the most knots that can be tied incorrectly, very easy, but it's very easy to figure out how to not tie it incorrectly. Okay, most of the time what people do, when you tie the square knot, right over left when you hold it in your hand. So the right one goes over the left and you loop it around. Now, the second part of the knot, the left goes over the right and you loop it around, okay? So your knot will actually do that when it's a square knot, all right? So what a lot of people make the mistake of is when they tie it, they don't swap back left over right and they just go right over left again. So now this is what we call a granny knot. Okay, this knot is going to slip out. All right, it's not a good knot. And it's also extremely hard to untie. Where the square knot makes a nice tight when it tightens down. And all you got to do is push the knot back and it's very easy to untie. Square knot, you need to hang something off the pole, or perhaps you can use this on several different things. You got a little sling here you could use to pick something up with. If you need to tie a roller, anything from the pole, you can put this around the pole, hang it from the pole, tie you a square knot on the end of it. Several different things like that. Around the house, it's just easy to, if you need to make you a little thing or something, you can hold on to something. You can tie this onto a bucket or something, and then you got a little handle here. So it's used real good for a handle or something like that. Different things like that. The next knot is the bowline. This is one of the hardest knots for people to learn how to tie. If you look online, there's so many different ways to tie it. So I think that gets confusing if you're looking online, because this guy ties it this way, this guy ties it that way, this guy ties it this way. So there's several different ways to tie it. The easiest way, and the way I learned how to tie it, is the simplest way to me, of course, because that's the way I know how to tie it. So the knot starts with a loop, okay? The loop must be this way if you're going to tie it like me. So when you make that loop, this part lays on top of that part, okay? You got the running end going down, and you got your loop here, all right? So I like to place it in my hand like this, okay? So I've got one end going over the back of my hand, one end going over the front of my hand, okay? I'm going to turn this where the camera can see it. So this is the way I teach my students. The little bunny, he runs around the tree and he goes right back in his little hole. Okay, now you got to hold the little bunny's head right there. All right, and then you're going to pull this. So this part of the rope is what makes the knot. So we're going to hold here and we're going to pull this. So this is going to cinch down on that right there, like that right there. That is your bowline. Okay, so I'll show it to you again. You make your loop. So it's basically out, around, back through. So you can see the bunny come out of the hole. He went around the tree. Don't go around the tree this way. You got to go from the underneath side and back in. And that is your bowline. This knot's just basically, it's not a slip knot, right? So this won't cinch down on anything. It's good for doing anything. You got a little something you can tie in this knot if you need to, and you got a way to carry it. Or it's a good way to send some things up, different things you can do with it. You can go on your trailer hitch, got a little knot there. The main thing about the bowline is it's another knot that's very easy to untie, and it doesn't cinch down, okay? Part of the problem with rope is when you put pressure on a rope on a knot, it ties that in there really, really tight. So it makes it extremely hard to untie if you tie just a wrong kind of knot in a rope. You may have to get your channel locks or your screwdriver or something like that to pry that knot out. So most of the knots we tie this why because they're extremely easy just to untie. They won't take a lot of pressure and tighten the knot down, bite down on the rope so far that you can't get the knot untied. This is one of my favorite knots, okay? Half hitches. Half hitches are used a lot. We actually use 3 half hitches to tie up when we do our hurt man rescue. Half hitches are a cinching knot, so you can just tie a few half hitches around anything. Especially you go to Home Depot and you get a board and it's in the back of your truck, you can tie a couple of half hitches, stitch it down on that board and tie it up, and it's not gonna go anywhere. So to do half hitches, we're gonna do this on the... So a half hitch is just, you go around the rope and back through it, okay? So when you go around the rope, okay, and then we go around the rope, see here? We're gonna go right back through there. Then again. Now you have 3 little half hitches right there. You can loosen these back up, okay, and then just slide your half hitches down and tighten them right up. Okay, one of my favorite things to do is a clove hitch. Clove hitch is another good one. We actually teach this one a lot in the school, okay? This is how we teach students how to send the cross arm up. You'll tie the clove hitch on one side of it. So the clove hitch is basically just some half hitches, all right? So you take your rope and you're gonna cross the rope over right here, and then it comes right back through, just like we tied the half hitch, right? It's gonna come right back through there, okay? So that's a clove hitch. A clove hitch is just cinches down on something. So one of my favorite things to use this clove hitch is something up the hand line, all right? So I need to send this bolt up the hand line. I'm just gonna sling a couple half hitches in there and it goes right up the hand line, all right? So here in Texas, we rodeo style, so we can lasso ropes, all right? So a lot of people don't know the knot, but the way I learned how to do that knot was, I'm pretty sure years ago, some old lineman showed me that and I just thought it was the coolest thing. I show it to my students all the time. So you start practicing with your finger, okay? So you're just gonna lasso your finger, all right? And so the way you start is, it's all about bending the wrist over to make the loop, to make the hitch, right? So when I bend the loop over, then I'd stick my finger through it and pull it through. Bend my wrist over, make the loop, pull it through. Now there's the same, that's actually a clove hitch, just what we tied right there. Okay, so you just keep practicing like that until you get good at it. All right. So I had a few students that, let's see, I think it was last class or 2 classes ago. I had a student that he could not get this down. He would practice. So when it came time for a rodeo, his wife come over to me and said, give me a rope. And I handed her a rope and she just wham, nailed it. And she's like, he can't do it. She just thought it was the best thing that she could do it. He couldn't do it. So it's good to know that our students are out there teaching their wives some knots and some line work too when they get home. There's a few other knots that we tie. There's a timber hitch and there's a bowling on a bike. So these 3 knots I showed you are, in my career, are the mainly 3 knots. The running bowling is another good knot. So first you gotta learn how, you gotta be able to tie the bowling. Gotta be able to tie the bowling, do a running bowling. All right, so when you tie the running bowling around something, okay, it's extremely simple to me to do this. All right, here we go. You're gonna make your loop just like you did when you tie the bowling. You're gonna take this end of the rope, lay it right over top of this end. All right, so it makes like a 4. You see the 4? Come over here, Sam, so we can see the 4. See the 4? So now, this end of the rope, all I gotta do is tie the bowling right here. So we come out, around, back through. Now, you need to pull the rope this way. Remember to hold the head, okay? You don't wanna pull the head, okay? I call it the bunny head, right? But this end of the rope, you don't wanna pull it. You just leave it there and you're gonna pull this side, let that part cinch down, just like we talked about earlier. Now, I got this. Now, so a lot of the students, when they learn this, they learn the running bowling, right? They got the bowling down pat, and they say, well, Scott, why can't I just do this, right? It's the same thing, okay? Because they're gonna reinvent the world. That's the way they are nowadays. They're smarter than any lineman around. I'm gonna tie my bowling, and then I'm gonna put this rope through it, okay? Now watch, I gotta pull all of this rope through there, where it gets to where it's finally gonna tighten down on what I want. But if I learn to tie it with one end of the rope, so now I lay this one over top of this one, right? Tie my bowline, tighten it down right there. Now, I'm already there. That's why you don't want to run the other end through it. You got to pull all that excess rope all the way up to where it goes. If you tie it with one end, as soon as it's there, it's ready, it's cinched. We use this a lot on tag lines. If you're tag lining a transformer going up and down or something, this is a real good knot to tie, so you can run a tag line from the ground. The grunt knot's a good one. We showed it on here before. We do this when we send wire up the pole a lot. So you can send just about anything up the pole, and it's a very good knot because the lineman doesn't have to untie anything. All he has to do is put his hand on whatever the material is, you stick it up, okay? So you stick it around here, and you take this side of the rope, and you flip you a little half hitch in there, and you tighten it down. All right, now you're gonna pull that up to the lineman. Once he gets it, say there's a piece of wire here, all he has to do is put his hand on the piece of wire. You're gonna untie the knot from the ground with your running in. Boom, it's in his hand. He didn't have to untie anything. So that's a really good knot we like to use too. Kudos to Greg. Greg taught me that knot. So that's a few knots that are easy to use around the household and everything. You've ever heard if you can't tie a knot, tie a lot. Okay, so we don't believe in that. We believe in tying the knot right, so that way your knot works. The more you tie a knot, right, the more you tie, let's see, you don't know how to tie a knot, so you just go. You just keep tying that knot. Just keep tying that knot. Just keep tying that knot. Now I gotta untie that mess. So what most people do, they get their knife out and they cut it, right? So we're gonna cut our hand lines, we're gonna cut all the ropes we use every day. No, we can't do that, right? So we have to learn how to tie knots that you don't have to untie. You send this up to a guy in rubber gloves and expect him to untie this knot, you're gonna get yelled at, okay? You're gonna get screamed at, all right? Learn your knots, tie them right so they're easy for the guy to untie on the pole, okay? See that knot right there? That's the worst knot you can have in a hand line, all right? If that thing has any pressure on it and it tightens down, that is extremely hard to get out of a rope, okay? Most of the time you're gonna have to get your channel locks or your screwdriver or something to get that last one out because it will bite down on that rope and it is the hardest thing to get out, okay? So that's why we use the knots that we use, so we can get them untied, so when we get them up there to our lineman, he can easily untie the knot and get it on there. So basically that's it. Rope can be people's kryptonite, all right? I've seen a lot of students that when you put a piece of rope in their hand, their brain just goes crazy. Their hands, it's about getting your hands to where they'll work in the correct direction of they need to go. One of the things, like I said, if you go on to YouTube, the bowline, there's so many ways to tie it, but you know, I'm extremely fast at it the way I tie it. And that's it for ropes today and knots today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you can learn how to tie the bowline a little better. Square knot, you don't tie a granny knot. You're running bowline and timber hitch. You know, like I said, there's thousands of ways to tie them when you get on YouTube. So if you're going to get on there, stay with one and learn how to tie it that way, okay? But the best thing to do is just learn how to tie it from the guy that's tying it in front of you, okay? Tie like him, you'll never be wrong. Scott Polittakis, Polecast Media.